Have you ever wondered what really happens when you completely disappear from someone's life? Not when you slow down communication. I mean, when you go silent, cold. No texts, no calls, no presence. Just gone. In today's world where people feel entitled to your energy, your time, your presence, there's a quiet power in simply walking away. No warnings, no explanations, just silence. And that silence, it speaks louder than words ever could. Welcome to one of the most important videos you'll watch if you've ever been made to feel like an option. If you've ever poured into someone who only took you for granted, today, we flip the script. Because what happens when you vanish isn't just about their confusion, it's about their unraveling. This video is for anyone who's ever been overlooked, undervalued, or underestimated. We're diving deep into the 6 intense emotional stages they feel when you simply disappear from their life. And we're going to explore them through the lens of Stoic philosophy. By the end of this video, not only will you understand their reaction, you'll understand your own power. So if you're ready to stop chasing, to stop explaining, and to start owning your space, comment below with the words, "I have disappeared." If you're ready to let your absence speak louder than anything you could ever say, because today you stop being the backup plan and start becoming the one they'll regret ever losing. And if you stay with me until the very end, I'll share the ultimate shift that happens when you disappear. Not just what they feel, but what you gain. Let's begin. 1. The sting of rejection. When you walk away from someone's life without warning, you do something they never prepared for. You take away certainty. You erase routine. You remove the comfort of knowing that someone is always there. And what fills that space is not calm, it is confusion, followed closely by rejection. This is not the kind of rejection that comes from an argument or a final text. It is the kind that arrives in silence, the kind that is never announced. One moment you were part of their world, and the next you are gone. No messages, no explanations, just space where there used to be connection. That silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. And what it says is simple. You no longer owe them your presence. Rejection hits hardest when it is unexpected. In their mind, you were always going to be there. You were dependable. You showed up. You forgave. You made them a priority, even when they gave you only fragments of their attention. And that quiet consistency became their emotional safety net. They believed they had time. They believed you would wait. When that belief collapses, it shatters their sense of control. Most people do not realize how much they rely on another person until that person is gone. They say things like, "It was not serious," or "I did not ask them to stay." But those are defenses. Underneath the surface, there was a quiet expectation that you would always be available. Even when they did not say it, they counted on your loyalty. When you remove it without notice, it leaves them scrambling for balance. They feel like they have been dropped from a height they did not know existed. From a Stoic point of view, this reaction is predictable. People who take others for granted often live in illusion. They believe that access to someone's love and energy is a permanent condition. They forget that everything external is temporary, including relationships. So when you disappear, you force them to confront that illusion. You strip away the fantasy, they are left with reality. And that reality tells them they lost something valuable because they failed to protect it. The sting is not only emotional, it becomes physical. They check their phone more than usual. They replay old conversations in their mind. They open your chat, hoping to see a message that is not there. And every time they look and find nothing, the rejection sharpens. It confirms that this is not a phase. It is not a game. You are not coming back just because they finally noticed your worth. The irony is that you were never asking for too much. You were only asking to be seen, to be valued, to be respected. But because you were consistent, they saw you as permanent. And in that assumption, they stopped earning your place in their life. You walking away is not revenge. It is not cruelty. It is the natural response to being treated like an afterthought. This is where Stoicism becomes powerful. It teaches us that we are not here to control others. We are here to control ourselves. When you disappear, you are not punishing them. You are choosing yourself. You are stepping away from a dynamic that no longer served you. And in doing so, you allow the other person to face themselves. Without you as a distraction, they are left with their own behavior, their own choices, and their own regret. Some people will try to act unaffected. They will pretend your absence means nothing. They will post smiling pictures and vague captions. But when the day is over and they are alone with their thoughts, The rejection becomes impossible to ignore. It lingers in the silence. It echoes in the memory of how easily they dismissed your presence. If you return too quickly, you rob them of this experience. You interrupt the lesson. The sting of rejection must be allowed to unfold fully. That is how growth happens. Not just for them, but for you. Because as they feel the pain of your absence, you feel the peace of your freedom. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said that we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about those events. In this case, they suffer because they assumed you would stay no matter what. That assumption was their mistake. Your silence simply revealed it. Let them feel it. Let them wonder why they thought your loyalty came without limits. Let the silence speak the truth that your words never could. You did not disappear to hurt them. You disappeared to heal yourself. And this is only the beginning. 2. The void of missing you. After the initial sting of rejection comes a deeper, quieter ache. This is not loud or dramatic. It does not come with sudden realizations or emotional outbursts. It creeps in slowly. It builds in silence. It is the unmistakable void of your absence. At first, they try to pretend it does not matter. They distract themselves. They go out more often. They scroll endlessly on their phone. They may even talk to new people, convincing themselves that what they lost was no big deal. But deep inside, they begin to notice something missing. It is not just a person, it is a presence, your presence. When someone has gotten used to you, they do not always recognize your value in the moment. They mistake your reliability for routine. They see your kindness as a given. They assume your warmth will always be available. But when that warmth disappears, when your attention is no longer theirs, the cold becomes unbearable. They start to feel the emptiness that only you used to fill. The void is not about loneliness. It is about the absence of something meaningful. You were not just another voice in their life. You were the one who understood. You were the one who listened without judgment. You brought clarity when things felt chaotic. You brought calm when the world felt heavy. You created a space where they could be themselves without fear. Now that space is gone, and they realize they do not have anything like it elsewhere. Stoicism reminds us that our value is not in how loudly we demand attention, but in how powerfully our silence is felt when we are no longer present. This is that moment. Your silence begins to echo in the quiet parts of their day. When they sit at a red light and their mind wanders, it wanders to you. When they hear a song or pass a place that reminds them of you, it hits them unexpectedly. That is the void. They might try to replace you, they might go on dates, they might talk about moving on, but the more they try to replace what they lost, the more they realize that what you gave them cannot be copied. You were not just filling time, you were giving meaning. You were not just another person in their life. You were the steady presence they never thought they would miss until it was gone. They feel it when they reach for their phone to share something and realize you're not there to hear it. They feel it when something good happens, and the first person they want to tell is the one who is no longer listening. The emptiness grows with each moment they expect you and find nothing. The reason the void hurts is because it reveals the depth of the connection they overlooked. While they were treating you as optional, you were giving them your best. Now, they understand what it meant to have that kind of emotional support, and they realize they may never find it again. Not because you are irreplaceable as a person, but because the energy you brought into their life was built through your consistency, your loyalty, and your quiet strength. That kind of presence cannot be manufactured. You are not missing from their life because you made a scene. You are missing because you stopped giving energy to someone who did not honor it. That kind of disappearance carries weight, and the longer the silence lasts, the heavier it becomes. The void also reveals their habits. They begin to notice how often they relied on you emotionally. You were the one they vented to. You were the one they called when things went wrong. Without you, they must now face their problems alone. That solitude exposes how dependent they had become on your support, even if they never said it out loud. This is not a punishment, it is a correction. When people take something for granted, the only way to make them see its value is to take it away. Now that your presence is no longer part of their routine, they are forced to reevaluate what you meant to them. That realization stings in a way that apologies cannot fix. They feel the weight of what they ignored. They feel the silence of the messages that never come. And they start to wonder why they were so careless with something so rare. Stoicism teaches us to value our own company more than the approval of others. You have chosen to step back not out of pride, but out of principle. You are no longer willing to remain where you are not respected. The void they feel is not your responsibility. It is the result of their choices. Let them feel it. Let them sit in the silence. Let the absence speak for you. Do not check in. Do not explain. Do not return to ease their discomfort. The discomfort is necessary. It is the only thing that will make them see clearly. Your silence is not empty. It is filled with lessons. It is filled with meaning. And as the days pass, the space you once filled becomes more obvious. With every passing hour, the void they feel is not about losing someone. It is about realizing they once had something extraordinary and failed to protect it. And now, they are alone with that truth. 3. Overwhelming curiosity. After rejection and the void settle in, something else begins to take over. It starts quietly, almost like a whisper in the back of their mind. At first they try to ignore it, but soon it becomes louder, more urgent. It demands answers. This is the stage of overwhelming curiosity. When you were in their life, they felt in control. They knew where you were. They knew what you were thinking. They had access to your emotions, your energy, and your presence, but now you are gone, and that control is shattered. They no longer know anything about you. They do not know what you are doing. They do not know who you are with. They do not even know how you feel. That silence begins to eat away at them from the inside. It is no longer about missing you. It becomes about needing to understand what is going on. They ask questions in their head that they cannot answer. Are you with someone else? Have you moved on? Are you happier without them? Each question creates a new wave of anxiety. The imagination becomes a battlefield. The mind fills in the blanks with the worst possible images. You smiling with someone else. You becoming stronger, more successful, more at peace without them. These thoughts haunt them more than any argument or closure ever could. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotions. When someone is kept in the dark, their mind becomes desperate for light. And in your silence, you have created a darkness that surrounds every thought they have about you. That darkness makes them feel powerless. They begin checking your social media. They scroll through your old posts. They look at photos and comments and stories, hoping for a clue. But you have given them nothing. No updates, no signals, no way in. This is when the panic grows. They begin reaching out to mutual friends. They ask questions, but they never admit why. They pretend to be casual. They say they are just curious. But the truth is, they are looking for any sign that they still matter. They want to know if you still think about them. They want to know if they still exist in your world. And with every day that passes in silence, their need for those answers grows. From a Stoic perspective, this is where the power of detachment becomes most visible. You are no longer controlled by their need for validation. You are no longer stuck in the loop of explaining yourself. You have chosen silence not to manipulate, but to protect your peace. And in that silence, you are showing them how little they truly knew you. They thought they understood you. They thought they could predict your reactions, but now they are left guessing, and it drives them mad. Their curiosity is not only about you, it becomes a mirror. It forces them to look at themselves. Why did you leave? Why did you stop responding? Why did you cut contact without a word? The answers are there, but they do not want to face them. It is easier to obsess over your current life than to examine the role they played in pushing you away. This is the irony. The more silent you remain, the more noise you create in their mind. Every unanswered question becomes louder. Every imagined scenario becomes more vivid. And you are no longer the person they took for granted. You are now the mystery they cannot solve. They try to play it cool on the outside. They pretend not to care. But inside they are watching, waiting, and wondering. They open your profile again and again, even though nothing has changed. They look at your last seen status, your last upload, even your friends' pages, to see if you appear anywhere. Every empty search leaves them more frustrated. Every unanswered question makes them more desperate. This is the moment when many people break their silence. They send a message. They make a post. They want to remind the other person what they are missing. But if you want to hold your power, you must do the opposite. Stay silent. Stay unseen. The strength lies in restraint. When you say nothing, you allow them to sit with their own mind. When you give them no access, you allow them to feel the full weight of losing you. They must feel that hunger for answers. They must feel that ache for clarity. And the longer you withhold that information, the more they realize how dependent they were on your presence. This is not about revenge, this is about dignity. You are not disappearing to make them suffer. You are disappearing to make space for peace. If they truly valued you, they will reflect. If they did not, then your silence saved you from further pain. Let them be curious. Let them wonder. Let them spin stories in their mind. You do not owe them clarity. You owe yourself peace. And the longer you remain silent, the more they will realize what they lost. Curiosity can be a powerful teacher. Let it teach them. 4. Deep self-reflection. The questions begin as whispers. At first they come in the quiet moments of the evening. Later they arrive without warning in the middle of the day. Every question digs into the same wound. What did I do to lose you? Curiosity has already shown them how little they know about your current life. Now the mind turns inward. It starts reviewing the past, scene by scene, searching for clues. This review is not gentle, it is an interrogation. It forces them to study every careless message left unread, every promise broken, every night you stayed up waiting for a reply that never came. They begin to see patterns they once ignored. The evidence piles up until denial is no longer possible. The first feeling to surface is regret. Regret is different from guilt. Guilt is a reaction to a single mistake. Regret covers the whole landscape. It is a recognition that the road could have been different if only they had paid attention. Stoic teachers remind us that regret is pointless unless it leads to change. But change only arrives after honest assessment. Until that honesty emerges, regret just circles the mind like a storm cloud. They remember how quickly they brushed off your concerns. They remember the evenings when you tried to share something meaningful and they responded with a half-hearted nod while scrolling on the phone. They remember the times they said they were busy when the truth was they did not feel like making the effort. Each memory lands heavier than the last. The cumulative weight becomes hard to bear. Self-reflection, real self-reflection, is brutal. It strips away excuses. It pulls apart the stories people tell themselves to avoid discomfort. In your absence, there is no one left to blame and no conversation left to steer. Everything points back to their own behavior. The mind searches for a convenient villain and finds only the mirror. They try to soften the blow with comforts, music, movies, quick conversations with friends. Yet every distraction eventually fades and the questions return stronger than before. The silence you left is not empty. It is a room filled with reminders, and every reminder is a demand for accountability. They replay the final weeks before you vanished. Was there a moment they could have changed the outcome? Did they ever truly say thank you? Did they notice how tired you looked on the nights you carried the weight of the relationship alone? Those memories hit like cold water. They admit silently that they took more than they gave. Here is the paradox. When you were present, they did not value your patience. Now that you are gone, they replay it with admiration. They see how calm you remained during arguments. They notice how often you forgave without keeping score. They realize that your resilience was not a sign of weakness but of strength, and that realization cuts deeper because it highlights their own shortcomings. A Stoic would say that adversity reveals character. Your absence serves as that adversity. In the face of it, they find a version of themselves that is less confident than they believed. They see insecurity dressed up as pride, indifference disguised as strength, and fear masquerading as independence. The discovery is unsettling. The body also responds. Appetite changes. Sleep becomes shallow. The mind stays active long into the night, working through scenarios that can never be rewritten. They open old chats, reading your words, while searching for clues of the moment you decided enough was enough. Every smiley face and every thoughtful question you asked is now a line of evidence showing how hard you tried. Some will attempt to shift blame in this stage. They will think perhaps you expected too much or read too deeply. That defense falls apart quickly because self-reflection has a way of dragging the truth into the light. The truth is simple. Respect was missing, appreciation was missing, effort was missing. They wonder if an apology would help. They draft messages that begin with, "I have been thinking," and end with a plea for another chance. Yet each draft highlights a new layer of responsibility. Every time they type a sentence, the question appears again. Why did it take silence to understand the value of what they had? Stoic mindfulness tells us to accept what is outside our control and focus on what we can change. Right now, they cannot change the past. They cannot change your decision to leave. The only thing they can control is their own growth. That growth demands more than words. It demands a shift in values. Until that shift occurs, the guilt remains. You must allow this process to unfold. If you step back in to soothe their conscience, you interrupt the lesson. Healing for you came from choosing peace. Healing for them must come from facing the full truth of their choices. Self-reflection is the only doorway to lasting change. Within this stage, there is a subtle transformation. Once denial fades, humility begins to take shape. They start to accept that love is earned through consistent action, not claimed through entitlement. They acknowledge that loyalty cannot survive on half measures. They realize that patience has an expiration date. This humility does not erase the pain, but it redirects it toward learning. They begin reading articles on healthy communication. They listen to podcasts about emotional intelligence. They journal. They meditate. They search for wisdom in places they once ignored. Each new insight draws a line back to the mistakes that drove you away. Self-reflection continues until one of two outcomes emerges. Either they grow enough to become better for the next relationship, or they fall back into old habits and the cycle repeats with someone new. Which outcome occurs is not your concern. Your role was to set the boundary. Their role is to decide what they do with the lesson. No matter their choice, remember this. Your silence became a guidepost pointing them to their own shortcomings. Whether they follow that guidepost is beyond your control. What remains within your control is the peace you reclaimed. That peace is your reward for valuing yourself. And the deeper they look inward, the clearer that truth becomes. 5. The urge to pursue you. After the silence settles and self-reflection takes hold, something inside them shifts. The regret becomes overwhelming. The questions turn into cravings. And just when they thought they could live without you, a new force rises from within. It is the urge to pursue you. At first they try to stay composed. They tell themselves it is just a passing thought. They try to believe they have moved on. But the stillness of your absence continues to echo louder than their pride. That is when it happens. The silence becomes unbearable, and the need to reach out takes control. This urge does not come from love alone. It is born from loss. It is driven by the realization that they no longer hold your attention. You were always there. You were the one who gave. You were the one who showed up. But now, you are not. Now you are gone. And that emptiness creates urgency. They begin small. Maybe they view your profile to see if you have posted something new. They check your last seen status. They scroll through your old photos just to feel close to you again. But that is not enough. The longer you remain quiet, the stronger the pull becomes. They begin drafting a message. It starts with simple words like hey or just checking in. But even typing those words makes their heart race. They are nervous now. Because they know the dynamic has changed. You are not waiting anymore. You are not asking for anything. You have chosen peace over confusion, and that silence has made you powerful in a way they never expected. They remember the times they ignored your messages, the times they dismissed your feelings. Now they would give anything for one reply. They would give anything to hear your voice again. This is the moment when they move from thinking about you to actively chasing you. The pursuit begins. They might start liking your old photos. They might comment on something from the past to remind you they still exist. They might send a vague message late at night, hoping you will respond. It might be disguised as concern. They might say they hope you are doing well. But underneath the words is one single desire. They want to be let back in. From a Stoic perspective, this is the clearest sign that detachment works. When you stop feeding a dynamic that drains you, the other person must face their own emptiness. Your absence became the mirror, and in that mirror they see what they lost. The pursuit is not always honest. Sometimes it is just panic wearing the mask of affection. They are not always ready to be better. They are simply desperate to regain control. You stepping away removed the comfort they never thought they would miss. Now they chase it, not because they respect it, but because they fear life without it. That is why you must not respond. Every moment of silence adds weight to the lesson. Every unanswered message tells them they no longer have access to your energy. And in that distance, they begin to see that you are not asking for too much. You are simply asking for basic care. You are asking for effort. You are asking to be chosen. Now they realize they never truly chose you. They just expected you to stay. And now they want to reverse that decision, but the rules have changed. You have changed. You no longer need to prove your worth. You have nothing left to explain. You are no longer emotionally available just because they finally feel the consequences. They might try harder now. They might offer apologies. They might write long paragraphs about how they finally understand. But you must remember one thing. Regret is not the same as change. Wanting you back is not the same as being ready to treat you right. Stoicism teaches us to respond with reason, not emotion. This is the moment to practice that lesson. When they reach out, remain still. When they offer words, remain calm. Do not be fooled by their pursuit. Ask yourself, have they become a different person, or are they simply reacting to discomfort? The desire to pursue you is real, but so is your need for peace. Do not confuse their urgency with love. Do not confuse their messages with maturity. Let them show through time, not impulse, that they are capable of being better. Silence is your test of strength. It is also their test of sincerity. If they truly value you, they will grow. If they are only chasing what they lost, they will fade again once the panic passes. Let the pursuit happen without you needing to react. Let their desire sit unanswered. If they come back only because they cannot handle the silence, that is not love. That is fear. You are no longer someone who can be reached through desperation. You are someone who deserves consistency, honesty, and real effort. Do not lower your standards just because they are finally chasing. Keep walking forward. Let your peace speak louder than their words. Let your boundaries remain strong. And most of all, remember this truth. The moment they start pursuing you is the moment you know you were never the problem. You were always the prize. 6. The battle between relief and regret. When you first disappear, many people feel a sudden lift on their shoulders. They tell themselves it is freedom. They convince themselves that without your messages and your presence, they can finally breathe. This first sensation is relief, and it feels fresh, like walking into open air after leaving a crowded room. They celebrate it. They post about new beginnings and claim they have never felt better. Friends cheer them on, and for a brief moment they almost believe it. Relief starts as excitement, but excitement is shallow. It lasts only as long as the noise of distraction lasts. They look at their phone to see new notifications, and for a while those notifications arrive. A friend invites them out. Someone new gives them attention. For an evening they laugh and think, I am doing just fine. The mind wants to believe that letting go of you meant letting go of weight. What the mind refuses to see in that moment is the difference between weight and substance. A heavy burden tires you, but substance nourishes you. You were substance. They only understand that difference after the excitement fades. The shift happens quietly. After the night out ends, they lie in bed, and the mind starts to wander. It drifts to memories of you. The laugh you shared about something small. The steady calm you brought when a day felt chaotic. The relief they felt earlier now feels thin, like a blanket that does not cover the feet. They turn over and reach for the phone again, but the notifications have stopped. The screen is dark. In that dark screen, they see the first shadow of regret. Regret is not loud at first. It whispers through gaps of silence. It picks moments when the world slows down. Waiting in line at a coffee shop. Driving alone with no music. Glancing at a familiar restaurant you both loved. With every quiet second, regret grows stronger while relief weakens. Relief relied on distractions. Regret feeds on truth. And the truth is simple. Freedom without meaning quickly feels like emptiness. They start measuring experiences against memories. A new conversation feels shallow compared to the depth they had with you. A new compliment feels temporary compared to the way you understood them without words. These comparisons are not fair to anyone new in their life, yet they cannot stop making them. The mind keeps scoring each moment, and the new moments keep falling short. That is when regret claims the upper hand. Stoic wisdom teaches that real freedom is the ability to act in harmony with nature and reason. Freedom without self-control simply replaces one chain with another. They ran from accountability by framing your departure as liberation. Now they discover that the true chain was their own disregard for value. They wanted liberty from effort, but real liberty requires effort tailored by virtue. Your absence shows them that running from effort brings a temporary rush but leads back to captivity, this time captivity to regret. At this point, the battle grows visible. They cycle between bursts of artificial joy and waves of reflection. They may post smiling photos, yet feel an ache that grows stronger each time they see your name in old messages. They may claim they are better off, yet they notice how easily tears come when a certain song plays. Each swing between relief and regret leaves them more exhausted. They begin asking hard questions, but unlike the earlier phase of self-examination, these questions are driven by the emotional clash they feel right now. Why did the relief not last? Why does everything fun turn cold so quickly? Why does every new face remind me of the one I pushed away? The mind can no longer protect them with easy answers. The only honest answer is that they prize the lightness of novelty over the weight of sincerity. During this battle, they might seek quick solutions. They might reach out again, hoping that hearing your voice will quiet regret. They might buy something expensive, hoping the newness will trigger relief again. Each attempt fails faster than the last. The pattern becomes clear. Relief is available, but shallow. Regret is quieter, but deep. And depth always outlasts surface. Your role in this process remains silence. If you break silence now, you rescue them from the lesson. You hand them relief and postpone regret. That helps neither of you. Stoicism calls for discipline in thought and action. Your discipline is to stay aligned with the boundary you set. Their discipline, if it ever arrives, must come from sitting with the discomfort until it transforms into genuine understanding. Gradually, regret changes texture. It moves from sorrow to humility. They start admitting truths to themselves. They acknowledge the effort you gave. They respect the patience you showed. They accept that your disappearance is a direct result of their choices. In that moment, relief no longer feels free. It feels empty. Regret, while painful, becomes the seed of possible growth. Some people will stop here, unable to face more pain. They will choose distractions for the rest of the year and carry regret as a dull ache. Others will keep going, turning regret into resolve. They will seek wisdom, practice accountability, and rebuild their character. Which path they choose is out of your hands. Your only task is to remain at peace, knowing this stage had to happen exactly as it did. Remember why you walked away. You sought calm rather than chaos. You chose value over validation. Relief may have greeted them first, but regret is the teacher that stays. If they learn, they become better for the next chapter in their life. If they do not, the cycle will repeat. Either way, you have already won because you honored your worth and protected your peace. Let them wrestle with relief and regret. Let the battle teach them what words never could. And let your silence remind you that the most powerful statement you can make is to walk in alignment with your own self-respect. If you made it this far, then you already understand what most people never will. Your silence is not weakness. It is strength. Walking away without explanation is not giving up. It is choosing peace over confusion and self-respect over chaos. You have just heard 6 powerful truths about what they feel when you disappear. Not what they claim to feel, not what they post about, but what they truly experience behind closed doors. The sting of rejection, the growing void, the obsession with your absence, the weight of self-reflection, the chase they never expected to make. And finally, the battle between temporary freedom and lasting regret. You are no longer someone who waits to be chosen. You are someone who chooses their own path. You no longer stay in places where you are not valued. You move forward with clarity and strength. That is what it means to live by Stoic values. That is what it means to reclaim your worth. So if this message spoke to something deep inside you, type this in the comments right now. I have disappeared. Let it be your declaration. Let it be the moment you stop apologizing for walking away and start embracing your power in silence. And if you want to keep growing stronger, keep becoming wiser, and keep learning how to apply Stoic wisdom to real life, hit that subscribe button. Every video is created to help you rise above the noise and become someone who leads with reason, discipline, and purpose. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth. And always remember, silence is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is where your real story finally begins. I will see you in the next video. Stay grounded, stay strong, stay stoic.